Welcome to JK Tells a Story, where real-life dramas unfold. Sit back and enjoy today's tale. The old .30 caliber rifle may have been made in Italy. Grant Holloway placed it in a tree on a hill overlooking the estate's pool. Grant was wearing rubber gloves that reached his elbows. He had a small monocular-like device that allowed him to look at the pool even though he was only 70 yards from several lounge chairs set up by the pool. The pool was located on the estate of Preston Ashford, a millionaire entrepreneur. The tree was outside the estate but close enough. Preston Ashford was the employer of Grant's wife, Brooke. She was a beauty with dark brown hair and a pleasant figure. She was going to spend the weekend at Ashford's estate as she had done for the past 4 weekends. She made no secret of this, having told Grant in advance about her intentions to have an intimate relationship with her boss. Only on weekends when Ashford's wife Vivian did charity work. Grant didn't know if Ashford's wife knew about Brooke's visits there. There was staff at the estate, so most likely she knew. Preston and Brooke walked toward the pool. Preston was wearing swim trunks and Brooke was only wearing a bikini top and bottom. This was not the first time Grant had seen these two scantily clad. Over the past weeks, he had carefully examined the grounds of the estate. Now he felt that it was time to decide the issue of life and death for the two lovers. Preston was as handsome as a fashion model with a slender, muscular physique. He and Brooke made a striking couple, especially as they were now. Grant could somewhat understand why Brooke was hooked on Preston, but understanding does not mean reconciling. From the very beginning when she announced her intentions, he was categorically against it. He and Brooke were 37 years old. They were married for 16 years and had twin daughters, Harper and Paige. The children were 15 and looked like their mother. They were currently at Grant's parents' house where they had spent the week before going to soccer camp. They inherited their father's athletic abilities. At the moment, Grant was supposedly riding a bike with his best friend Evan Whitmore. The two had been close friends since first grade. They were now partners in a business that sold financial advice to companies and some individuals. Holloway Whitmore was founded as soon as Grant graduated from college. Evan didn't go to college, his parents couldn't afford it, and Evan wanted to make it in the world. He was an outgoing guy and was a successful salesman. As part of their firm, he sold their services. The services were excellent and the company grew. Now both men were quite wealthy, married men with children of about the same age who went to the same school. Evan was married to Lauren, his childhood love. Well, Lauren was the childhood sweetheart of both Evan and Grant. Evan won this competition. Grant never really understood why. Evan and Grant were very similar in appearance. Both were dark, 6 feet tall, of medium build. Who could choose? But some people just fall in love. This happened to Evan and Lauren. Grant was used to it. He found Brooke in college and she was all he ever needed. Now, at this moment, Evan waited on the bike path some distance away, and Brooke was about to get a big surprise. Grant saw Brooke and Preston hugging each other. The hug turned into a kiss. As soon as they broke the kiss and Brooke walked a short distance away, the moment came. Grant had seen enough. He climbed down from the tree and quickly ran up the hill, throwing the old rifle into the bushes along the way. He took off the stock cover and gloves, stuffed them into a plastic bag on his belt, and jogged up the hill to his bike. He jumped into the saddle, headed for the main bike path, and rode out onto it after looking around to see that there was no one nearby. Grant rode his bike about 3 miles to join Evan. They continued on their way. About 6 miles away, Grant left a plastic bag in a dumpster behind a gas station. They then finished their ride and arrived at Evan's house. The rifle didn't bother Grant. He assumed the police would find it. They wouldn't be able to get DNA, and he was sure that nothing could be traced. He had the rifle for many years. He got it from a guy he knew who was dying and didn't want to leave the weapon to his family. There were 2 rifles and 2 pistols. The other rifle was also from World War I but larger and more valuable. Besides the rifle he had used today, the rest of the weapons were in Grant's gun safe along with the weapons he had inherited from his grandfather. This rifle was never in the safe. Grant kept it separately in a hidden place in a closet in the garage. When Brooke announced her intentions to have an affair with Preston, Grant immediately thought of this rifle. Over the next week, He took it out to his country property to make sure it was shooting accurately. It needed a little work, so he filed the serial number on the inside and was confident that the rifle was good enough for its purpose. Lauren was there to greet them when they arrived at Evan's house. She expected them to return at 2 in the afternoon, and they arrived just then. She prepared cold beer for everyone and asked, "How was the trip, guys?" Evan smiled at his wife. "It was great. The track wasn't very crowded and we had a good workout. About 4 hours or so." Lauren hugged them both. She was a pleasant-looking woman their age with dark hair and slightly overweight. Grant always found her attractive. They usually flirted a little, but she was Evan's woman and all three of them knew it. The men drank beer and showered at the pool house before sitting around the pool. Lauren asked Grant, "How long do you think this thing with Brooke will last?" She knew about what Brooke did on the weekends. Grant told them both because they were his closest friends and the people he turned to when he was in trouble or needed calm advice. In Lauren's opinion, Grant should have kicked Brooke out immediately. But Evan thought differently. He suggested they wait until they could protect the company and the twins were older. But Grant already knew what he was going to do. He had no pity for guys who slept with other people's wives, especially his own. So having developed a plan, Grant talked to Evan about it. Together they clarified the details. Grant answered Lauren's question. "I have no idea. But Lauren, I hope to continue my relationship with Skylar." Lauren repeated, "I still think it's time for you to leave Brooke." Lauren and Brooke had always been cool toward each other. These four did communicate, and so did their children. Evan's eldest son Dylan was a year older than the twins, and his youngest son Cole was a year younger. Both boys seemed to find the girls attractive, but the mothers were far from close. Brooke had her own circle of friends from the country club, while Lauren had her own friends from the Democratic Party and several book clubs. However, their social gatherings generally went well. Brooke was always nice and interested in Lauren's hobbies. The strange thing was that both women worked in the same job for most of their married lives as administrative assistants. That ended when Brooke was hired at Ashford's 2 years ago. Lauren was still working at her old company. As the three of them sat there, Grant was lost in thought about recent events. He wondered about his reaction and why Brooke had betrayed him so much. She had been working for Preston for 20 months and Grant had no idea there was a problem. Their intimate life, always good, did not change. Brooke did not work late and did not go on business trips. She went to the club most weekends but regularly attended the girls' home soccer games. Grant always attended all the twins' games. So Grant was shocked when Brooke sat down next to him late one night and said, "Grant, I don't want to, but I'm going to do something. I hope this doesn't ruin things too much. I love you." Grant instantly became wary. He was not one to react emotionally to what was happening. To most people he seemed stoic. His parents were the complete opposite. They argued and fought like street dogs, then had passionate reconciliations. Grant was an only child and his reaction, honed over the years, was no reaction at all. That was his initial stoic reaction to Brooke. He didn't say a word and stared at her. This didn't unsettle her. This had happened before. She continued, "Preston and I have developed, well, a crush on each other. His wife goes away every weekend from Friday to Sunday evening. I'm going to visit him at the estate when she leaves, starting this Friday. I have no idea when this will stop. He'll probably get tired of me, but I need it, Grant." Grant didn't say anything. In fact, he was quite calm internally. This was because he knew, as soon as she laid out this plan, that he couldn't stop her, nor would he try to. He also knew that Preston was as good as dead, as was their marriage. What he hadn't fully decided yet was what to do with Brooke. He always loved her. She was a pretty good mother. But he knew well that she indulged her desires and cared about her status. He saw it but didn't pay enough attention to it. Now these negative qualities had reached their apex. This was unexpected and not even in her character. He was considering a decision regarding Brooke and almost immediately remembered the rifle in the garage closet. Brooke was startled when Grant smiled after about a minute. He had this reaction when he thought about the rifle. Brooke was not only amazed but also unsettled by his smile. It wasn't a fake smile. She didn't expect this. She said with some heat, Do you think there's something funny here? He smiled at her. Not at all. But that smile. She felt a shiver from that smile. Grant stood up and asked, "Have you already been intimate?" Brooke paused. "No. Well, a few kisses. That's all for now. I will sleep in the guest house. Let me know when you're done with the rich boy. Then we'll see what's left." As he spoke, Grant walked up the stairs to pack his things for the night. Brooke was sitting in the living room. She was unhappy with this turn of events. However, it was something she wanted to do and she intended to do it. However, she felt lonely, left alone in bed. It was Wednesday, only one more night. She was so looking forward to her weekend with Preston. She longed for him. He was younger, he was 30. He was rich and educated and he was well built. She realized this after seeing him working out in the office gym without a shirt. Her idea was to get enough of him while his wife was away for the weekend. She understood that this situation would continue for another couple of months. Then, depending on how they got along, perhaps they would make some kind of permanent agreement. Maybe so, maybe not. She loved Grant. She loved the way he held her. She loved the way he treated their daughters. She liked that he gave her a good life. But for a while she was restless and very attracted to her boss. She wanted it and she was going to get it. She was sure that she and Grant would work it out somehow. Grant had a lot to think about. He had barely slept Wednesday night. The twins were going to stay with friends for the whole weekend. He would do some reconnaissance and check the weapons. Maybe he could take a little break. On Thursday, he went to his usual cafe for lunch. A nice young woman, Skylar Bennett, dined there sometimes. Sometimes he and Skylar had lunch together. Skylar was about 25 or so, with a nice athletic figure and dark hair. Something about Skylar reminded Grant of Lauren, something about her appearance and behavior. Grant and Skylar had been flirting a little for a few weeks. However, until Brooke announced her intention to cheat, Grant had absolutely no intention of pursuing Skylar. So what about now? Skylar was there that Thursday. She was just sitting down when he entered. He ordered a sandwich and sat down next to her in the booth. It was somehow different. He usually sat opposite her. Skylar was not a fool and was used to guys hitting on her. She couldn't help but notice it. She felt pleased that Grant sat next to her. She had been saving a place for him for 2 weeks, but until now he either did not understand or did not want to take the hint. She knew Grant was married, and yet he was a temptation. Skylar turned to him and gave him a warm smile. "Something has changed, huh?" He smiled back at her. "Yeah. My wife decided to fool around with her boss." Skylar put her hand on his thigh. "I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner and a dance on Friday night." "Oh, Skylar, I would really like that very much." His voice was soft, gentle. A grin appeared on his face. He felt foolish when he realized this. She patted him on the cheek, and he responded physically. He did everything he could to control himself. She stroked his cheek and he kissed her lightly on the lips. "I better not stay here. We could be arrested." They exchanged phone numbers. Returning to work, Grant felt like a schoolboy. Some of the employees noticed this. Brooke noticed too when Grant walked briskly home after work. Her husband, with whom she had lived all these years, surprised her. She said, "I made lasagna and some salad." She considered this a peace offering. She was convinced that Grant would take her adventure hard. All the more unexpected was his answer, "Thank you. I'm just hungry." His mood had clearly improved. Brooke was suspicious and wondered if he had already moved on. He washed his face and they sat down to eat. Brooke made up her mind. "Do you think?" "Well, I'm going to his house tomorrow." He glanced at her. He decided to put some effort into it. Grant felt he had to do this for the sake of the children. "It's not too late to stop, Brooke. I firmly believe that you will regret this in the end." She hesitated. It was a different Grant. He said this completely sincerely and confidently. For a moment she was overcome with love for him. She struggled with it. "I need this, Grant." He smiled at her. "I don't believe you and I use the word need to mean the same thing, Brooke." She stood up and cleared away the plates. "Will you come to bed with me tonight?" "No. I told you. You'll see me when you're done with your lover." It will be clear then. Brooke was disappointed. She had visions of a pleasant evening that would bring an amicable end to this phase of their marriage. But this was not destined to come true. She realized she was done with it when she talked to Grant the other day. She felt sad about this. Grant paused before heading to the guest house. Maybe something will come back, Brooke. But most likely not. He walked out the door. Brooke sat down at the table and thought. At that moment it became clear to her that she was risking her marriage. She used to entertain the idea that things might go back to normal when her affair ended. Now she knew it was naive. If she continued to date Preston, it was likely that her life would subsequently change dramatically, and there was no real way to predict what form it would take. She had almost decided to give up on the affair when the thought struck her that even if she gave it up, Grant might never feel the same way about her. Yes, now he would never see her the same. She decided to go ahead. Friday morning, Brooke packed her bag before leaving for work. She packed everything she needed plus a new nightgown. She became nervous when she saw Preston at work, but he smiled broadly at her and kissed her in his office. "No doubts or hesitations?" she asked. "I really had them, but I want you so much," he replied. She smiled at him playfully. Preston was delighted. They left work in different cars. Employees at Ashford Properties were not supposed to know about the weekend plans. Brooke arrived at the estate at 6 in the evening. She parked and Preston opened the door and invited her into his luxurious home. When the door closed, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her. She melted into him. She was so excited. They headed toward the stairs. Preston picked her up and tried to carry her up the stairs, but he had to lower her halfway. She realized that Preston was not as strong as Grant. She hurried upstairs and headed to the master bedroom. The bed was made and everything was ready. Preston pulled her into his arms again and they kissed. What happened next doesn't need detailing. Afterward, they lay together. Brooke was satisfied. Maybe everything happened quickly, but it was very intense. She caught herself thinking that the pleasure was just as intense as with Grant. Well, almost as intense. She was confident that they would reach new heights later. Preston was delighted. He had conquered this married woman and tied her to him. He knew he was a better lover than anyone she had ever experienced. He just knew it. Brooke decided to encourage Preston again. Took her a while, but when she did, they were intimate again. After that, he invited her to have dinner. He had robes for them. They went downstairs. A small feast was prepared and Brooke found herself starving. They ate and talked. "Did you like it?" Preston's question was unoriginal. Brooke nodded. "Certainly. And you?" "The very best." Brooke hummed a tune. She felt a little ashamed. She and Grant often sang together. After dinner, they went back upstairs and watched a romantic movie in the bedroom. Preston wanted more intimacy, but Brooke wanted to watch the movie to the end. Then they were together again. Brooke was impressed that Preston was able to manage 3 times. However, the third time made a slightly less impression on her. Grant picked Skylar up from her apartment, driving his classic MGB convertible. This was his hobby, one of them. Skylar was delighted with the trip and with Grant. He looked great in his blue suit and Grant was delighted with her in a spectacular dark red dress with a plunging neckline. He took her to a good hotel where there was a fine restaurant. They had a wonderful dinner and then went to the dance floor nearby. Grant was athletic and always a good dancer. One of the reasons he liked Brooke was that she was also gifted in that sense. So was Skylar. Skylar was light on her feet and sensual when she moved. Grant was completely fascinated by her. More and more she reminded him of Lauren, only younger and a better dancer. They danced until at some point they both suddenly wanted to find another place. Skylar got into the car and looked at him. "Take me to your home." "You mean take me to your place?" Grant controlled himself during the trip and drove very carefully. 15 minutes later, he opened the front door and let Skylar in. They were unable to get out of the living room. They spent the night together. In the morning, they woke up to sunlight. They took a shower together. Grant prepared breakfast. Skylar just looked at him as he did it. She was in love and knew it. She didn't trust it, but she felt it. Then she said it to him as he served eggs and toast. "I'm in love with you, Grant. I just have to say it." Grant was surprised. He thought about it and said, I believe the feeling is mutual. Hard to believe so fast. They finished their breakfast. Now what? Asked Skylar. Grant smiled. Guess, he said. Brooke and Grant's weekend continued as it had begun. Brooke was pleased with Preston, who gave her a lot of pleasure. Grant thought he was head over heels in love with Skylar. On Sunday afternoon, Brooke and Preston sealed their agreement to see each other next weekend. Grant and Skylar began to think about what to do. They set a date for next Friday, depending on what Brooke had planned, and they agreed to meet for lunch every day. Grant dropped Skylar off at her apartment. She was a lawyer and despite her youth could afford good housing. Meanwhile, Brooke drove home from Preston's. Grant had just returned when she walked through the door. They stared at each other. Grant had this smile. There was nothing he could do about it, and Brooke saw it. She asked, How was your weekend alone? Fine. How is your rich boy? Grant grinned. If Brooke had been honest, she would have said he was exciting but Grant was better. Instead she said, He was great. I'll be leaving again next week. The girls won't be back until next Sunday evening. She knew something had gone wrong with her plan. Grant was too happy. She was also nervous about how to tell the girls what was going on. For dinner, they ordered Chinese food. Grant met Skylar for lunch every day during the week. They had plans to go to a concert on Friday and spend the weekend at her house. Grant and Brooke communicated mechanically throughout the week. At work, Brooke and Preston were careful. At home, she hoped that Grant would soften and take her back. No chance. Every night, he slept in the guest house. In the evenings, he watched baseball or read, not communicating with Brooke. Basically, he ignored her. Their marriage was frozen. While in the guest house, he walked out through the backyard and looked around the Ashford estate. He used online maps and night vision goggles to build a mental diagram of the place. He also used cash to buy a device that directionally amplified sound. The following weekend, he and Skylar had a great time, but then she had to leave for Sunday lunch with her parents. So in the morning, they had their time together and she left. Grant went to the Ashford estate and found out some more. He had seen Preston and Brooke at the pool many times. It seemed like that was where they spent a lot of time. He also found that the directional device was working fine. He managed to overhear some of what they said to each other. He found it boring. By the third week, the twins were home. Of course, they noticed that their parents had actually separated. At dinner that Tuesday, Harper asked, Mom, Dad, what's going on? Brooke said, We have some problems. We'll deal with that. Don't worry. The girls then looked at Grant. He shook his head. The truth is that your mother decided to have intimate relations with her boss, so I moved into the guest house. What will happen in the long term has not yet been decided. Brooke was angry at Grant for putting it that way. However, there was nothing to object to. She said, I felt that I needed. Paige interrupted. A new man? It looks like it. How could you, Mom? Brooke stood up and ran up the stairs. Are you getting divorced, Dad? Harper asked. I don't know. Not everything has been decided yet. But can you keep your mouth shut? The girls answered in unison. Yes. Do you promise? Yes. I have a new friend. I'll introduce you this weekend when Mom goes to her boyfriend. The twins were smart. Harper said, You mean you have someone you want us to meet? So this must be very serious, right? Maybe. Until Mom left, I never would have met Skylar. But Mom went, then I did it too. And who knows who will end up with whom in the end. Paige grinned. Harper asked, How did you manage to work so quickly, Dad? This doesn't sound like you. I kind of knew Skylar from lunches. Maybe, I felt insecure or like I didn't measure up, and it seemed to me that Skylar would like to go on a date with me. She really wanted this. The girls fell into a thoughtful and uncomfortable silence. Grant let them think. Finally he asked, Anything else? Harper asked, When will we meet her? I'll organize something for this weekend. You have a game on Saturday afternoon, right? Yes. Maybe Skylar and I will come. This is a serious story, Dad. You're not ashamed to appear with her even to the parents of our friends. Grant was not surprised that the girls turned out to be so perceptive and smart. He really believed that they could figure this out. Nothing is set in stone now. I like this woman and your mother ruined our marriage. But the situation is unpredictable. They left everything as it was. Brooke never came downstairs. On Friday, Brooke returned to Preston's estate. She had a pleasant weekend, but sometimes she got bored. Preston's intimate repertoire was more limited than Grant's. Brooke tried to introduce him to something new, but he was not so receptive. Preston could manage at best 3 times a day, and he was quick and didn't like affection afterward. This left a lot of time when they weren't being intimate. Since their affair was supposed to be a secret, they could not go out. So they stayed at the estate. It was big enough for hiking, and they had a pool where they spent a lot of time. That same weekend, Grant took Skylar dancing again. This time they went to a local club. One of her friends, Laura Blake, was there. Laura and Grant were introduced to each other. In reality, Grant had no intention of keeping his relationship with Skylar secret. They danced amazingly again and then went home to Skylar's place. Grant left at 1 in the morning. The twins were already waiting for him. A wide smile appeared on Grant's face when he saw them in the living room. You girls have a game tomorrow. You should get some sleep. Paige said. We were waiting for you. Harper added. I see you have a big smile. Grant interrupted himself. Never mind. Go to sleep. Game at 10. Skylar will come with us. Skylar arrived at 8:30. She was nervous. Grant was nervous and the twins were nervous and insecure. When Grant opened the door and let Skylar in, there was a long pause where no one said a word. Skylar looked great. Finally Grant said, Skylar, this is Harper and this is Paige. Skylar smiled. Hello. I think it's a little awkward, but maybe we have something in common. I played soccer in college. On the attack. Where? Asked Paige. Notre Dame, Skylar replied. Grant was stunned and the girls were impressed. Paige, always the troublemaker, had a soccer ball in her hands. She tossed it to Skylar. Skylar somehow picked it up with her right foot and threw it back to Paige with her knee. Paige caught the ball. Skylar smiled. Paige and Harper smiled too. Grant said, Then let's go. The girls were good at soccer. Usually they united in the center of the field and tried to control the course of the game. Grant and Skylar watched. Well, Grant was watching. Skylar could hardly restrain herself and jumped up and down in the seat. If the other parents didn't see her before the game, they saw her when the game started. It was a tense, exciting match. The other team showed its best side and took a 2-goal lead. But the home team fought back and equalized just 2 minutes before the end. The opposing coach made a substitution. Paige stood next to Skylar. Skylar called her and said, They will try to pass by your side. Cut through and intercept. Paige looked at Skylar and nodded. Skylar's analysis was accurate. Paige intercepted the pass and headed toward the goal at speed. Grant jumped, but Skylar didn't. Skylar just watched. Paige approached the box and saw that the other striker on the right was offside by a yard. She feinted left, lured the goalie out, and then kicked the ball into the net. The game ended immediately after this score. Grant and the girls celebrated with other parents. Skylar took a step back. When the excitement died down, Paige approached Skylar and asked, How did you know? Skylar laughed. I watched the game. I see the game when I watch. She patted Paige's hand. 3 or 4 other parents noticed the whole interaction. Joan Drake asked Grant, Is she the twins' coach? Grant said, No, she's my friend, but she played this game. The girls' coach, Lena Holmes, said, Well, of course I remember her. She played for Notre Dame on the attack. Grant called Skylar over and introduced her to everyone present. Nobody asked any awkward questions. In the car on the way home, Harper said, Dad, you can guess what they're all wondering. Grant laughed. Let them. The 4 of them stopped for pizza. Then Grant and Skylar went to her house for about 3 hours. They returned with Chinese dinner. Grant was a little worried about the food selection. After dinner, there was another long conversation about soccer. Paige Googled Skylar and learned about her college career. Skylar studied there for 3 years. Around 9 in the evening, there was an awkward silence. Then Grant said, "Girls, Skylar and I are heading to the guest house." Paige said, "Be quiet, please." Skylar laughed. "I promised to do my best." After Skylar and Grant left, the girls talked. They really liked Skylar and they could see how much their father liked her. They felt like the family life they knew was over. It was an abrupt transition. Harper said, "It's not Daddy's fault, is it? Mom abandoned him with this idiot. I really hate her for this." "Me too. I can only guess that how could she just do that? Selfishness, that's all. We have to accept change, Harper. Maybe things won't be so bad. I like Skylar. Dad likes her too. But they haven't known each other for long, right? So we don't know. Maybe Mom and Dad will make peace." "Maybe," Paige said doubtfully. They went upstairs and watched a video. Then they fell asleep. Grant and Skylar had a wonderful time together. In the morning, they prepared breakfast for 4. Skylar set up an impromptu soccer lesson for the twins in the backyard. Then she had to visit her mom and dad. Grant and the twins had a long discussion about how to proceed. Grant tried to reassure them about their mother. He also assured them that even if there was a divorce, they would remain here in the house. He also told them that they would still have a lot of contact with both parents if they separated. They actually discussed how the girls should react to Brooke. Grant tried to get them to at least be polite. Then Brooke appeared at the door, creating another awkward moment with everyone staring at her. Brooke said, "I want you girls to know that I love you and I love Dad too. This is true." Paige calmly replied, "Mom, that's what you say, but what you're doing says otherwise. I can't explain all this to you. I just needed it. This won't last forever." Harper said, "Oh, I'm not so sure about that." Brooke walked into the kitchen, saying she was going to make dinner. The other 3 looked at each other. Nobody said almost anything. Dinner was delicious but stressful. Brooke asked about the soccer game. Harper said, "Paige scored the winning goal. Congratulations. Tell me about it." An awkward silence followed. Then Grant said, "Paige anticipated the pass, intercepted it, and went all the way to score past the goalkeeper." Brooke praised the girls. Grant cleared the table and the girls went to their rooms. Grant went to the guest house. Brooke said, "Grant, understand. You could spend a night here." "Never. Are you done with this idiot?" "I don't know. Maybe it wasn't quite what I had hoped. We stayed home all weekend, you know." "Brooke, people will find out. They already know something is wrong. I don't want to embarrass you, and he doesn't want his wife to know. It's unfortunate, Grant. Just a bit more and it will end." "Brooke, please understand that you ruined our marriage. It's over between us. So stay as long as you want. Just remember, he is all you have now." Brooke was shocked by this frank statement. She sobbed just once and ran upstairs. By morning, she had decided to take things as normally as possible. She had to go to work, and so did Grant. The girls were preparing for a trip to their grandparents' house and then to outdoor camp. Grant had lunch with Skylar and explained what happened after she left. He then went home to help the twins pack their things. Brooke's plans for the day were disrupted when her friend Joan called. "Brooke, who was that nice young woman who came to the soccer game with Grant?" Brooke paused. "Which young woman? Oh, I see. She is a former soccer player. Very pretty. We were all wondering where you were." "Damn it. Calm down, Joan. She and Grant didn't. There weren't any obvious signs, you know." "Oh no? Well, they didn't tell me anything about her." "What is her name?" "Skylar." "Brooke, where have you been?" "I heard something. I can't believe it." "Like what, Joan?" "Like the fact that you left Grant for your boss." "That's not true. I didn't leave him." "Well, Jane Bright has a cousin at the club who works for Mr. Ashford at his house. The cousin said that on weekends when his wife is away, he has a woman there." "Crap. So it's you?" "God, Brooke. This shouldn't last too long. Only on weekends." "You're being foolish. Grant already has another woman, and guess what? I don't blame him. She's younger and better. Your daughters seem to be already familiar with her. You screwed up royally." Brooke was truly shocked. That evening she and Grant dropped the girls off at his parents' house. The ride home was silent, but when they entered the house, Brooke attacked Grant and slapped him. He stepped back. "What the hell? You replaced me, you idiot. You're complaining? What did you expect? You must have made preparations for my departure. How long have you been making fun of me? I only knew her from the cafe. We didn't even kiss until you went crazy with your boss." "So you." Brooke rushed away. Grant went to the guest house. He then walked out the back door wearing dark clothes. He found a good place to observe Preston's estate from a tree. That night he intended to test a sound amplification device. He set it up and waited until he saw Preston and his wife on the deck overlooking the pool. They sat and drank wine. As he tuned into their discussion, he heard Preston say, "It won't last long. You have your boy toy." Vivian replied, "Only because you started it. This is like the fourth or fifth woman, Preston. I support your style, Viv. Don't ruin it. Why are they always married? Do their husbands know?" "Yes, I make them tell their husbands about it. I like it better this way. When we have social events at our company, I smile at all the idiots. Someday, boy, you'll cross paths with the wrong person." "Nope. What will they do? They might divorce their wives, but they all have children, so they don't. They just accept it. So what if they end up divorced?" "You're unbelievable, Preston." "Yeah, a real jerk. But I'm good in bed, right?" Vivian laughed. "What do you think? Mason is better." Preston laughed. From that moment on, the conversation reached mundane topics. Grant climbed down and walked away. Until this moment, Grant had thought that dealing with Preston was not only unnecessary but also risky. It seemed to him that there was no need, after all, now he had Skylar. Brooke and her foolish actions made it possible. Maybe he thought he should thank Preston. But the conversation he had just overheard reignited his burning anger. The next day he walked into Evan's office and they talked. Skylar spent the weekend with Grant and the girls. The couple slept in the guest house but otherwise interacted with the twins almost like a family. After Saturday's game, there were more soccer lessons. Saturday night, Grant and Skylar had a wonderful time as usual. As they lay in bed, Skylar asked, "What happens next, Grant? I mean, maybe it's strange to ask this, but are we exclusive?" Grant laughed. "You mean, do I sleep with my wife on the side?" Skylar giggled. "Yes. I am absolutely not going to do that. I'm a one-woman man. You can be that woman if you want. I feel like I'm ruining your marriage. You two have been together for so long." "Not anymore. Once Brooke went to her boss, I was done with her. After a few hours, I felt free and benefited from it. I'm happy with my decision." The next morning, they participated in another community run and then prepared breakfast. Skylar went to her parents' house a little early to help her mother with a special cake. Grant told the girls he was going for a bike ride with Evan and would see them later. He hugged each one tightly and left. Earlier that week, Grant had prepared the rifle and left it by the tree, loaded and wrapped. As he rode his bike there, he half hoped someone would take it, but everything was in place. He had serious doubts even now, backed into a corner. But he kept remembering the conversation he'd overheard. Then he thought of his wife kissing another man. He thought, enough. It's time to end this. As Grant and Evan sat drinking beer after the bike ride, Lauren ran out of the house. "I saw it on TV. Preston was shot. He is dead. Preston is dead." Grant quickly stood up. "What about Brooke? They said a woman was present, but she was not injured." Evan exclaimed, "Oh my God!" Evan took out his phone and turned on the news feed. Evan had kept Grant's cell phone with him the entire trip in his belt bag. He waited until Lauren looked at his phone before handing it to Grant. Lauren saw it but didn't think much of it at the time. Grant tried to call Brooke. No answer. "I better go home. Maybe someone called." He left on his bicycle. When he returned home, the landline phone was ringing. "Hello? Is this Grant Holloway?" "Yes. This is Detective Harvey from Atlanta Police. There was a shooting, but your wife was not injured." "You're talking about Preston? My friend told me what happened. I can't comment on this. Mr. Ashford is dead." Your wife is here at the station. She is completely shocked. Can you come get her? Certainly. Where? Main office, 3rd floor. Please contact the front desk. Grant put on shorts and a t-shirt over his cycling gear. He had his wallet and phone in his fanny pack. He took the car keys and drove off. He had no idea what to expect. He was invited to a conversation and was told that he could see Brooke after everything was completed. Detective Harvey was an older white guy who looked fit, although he had gray hair. He had a partner, Stella Blaine, an attractive brunette, large and tall. Grant sat with them in a small room and answered all their questions. They asked how his day was, and he told them about the bike ride and everything. Then they asked if he knew Brooke was involved with Preston. Yes. How did you feel about this? It was Harvey. I did not like it, but I moved on. What does that mean? I have another interest. Another woman. Oh, so you have an open marriage? No. As she announced that she was doing it, that's how I reacted. Do you have a weapon? Yes, I have a gun safe. We'll have to look into it. Fine. Well, let's go home together. The police found out many details about the bike ride, addresses, and who else Grant was meeting with. Then they left him in a small room for a while. The door was locked. Grant just sat there looking at his phone. About 15 minutes later, Harvey returned and asked if they could look at the phone. Grant said, I have something on my phone about work that I don't want to make public. Nothing illegal. We could get a warrant. He decided to just let them take the phone. He was told it would take 30 minutes. Then they took him to Brooke. She was wearing a t-shirt and jeans, not hers. She looked scared. Grant said, Brooke, are you okay? No. God, he got shot. I was right there. There was blood everywhere. I'm sorry, Brooke. Once they're done with my phone, I can take you home. Okay. Grant paused. I regret all of this, but we can talk on the way home. He hugged her. Soon the detective brought the phone and the couple left the station. When they were in the car, Brooke asked, Grant, did you shoot him? No. Maybe I don't regret that he was killed, but I didn't do that. Brooke stared at him. I know you could, but you found the right girl, so I just didn't do it. Did you see him get shot? No. I heard a shot and it all happened. Now she was crying, sobbing. Grant pulled the SUV into the driveway. He escorted Brooke inside and led the arriving police officers to the gun safe. They examined the weapons and asked about the ammunition. There was an unopened box of .30 caliber ammunition. They were not interested in other ammunition. When they got back outside, Harvey turned to Grant and said, We'll take DNA and fingerprints from the rifle we have. I would advise you not to interfere with this, Mr. Holloway. Well, I don't know about any weapon and I didn't shoot anyone. Fine. See you. Grant went inside to deal with his wife. However, before doing this, he called Skylar and told her what had happened. She knew some details. He asked if she would come over later once Brooke had calmed down. Then he called his parents and daughters. They discussed the events of the past day for a long time. One of the questions was whether the twins would go to outdoor camp next week. It was decided that they should leave to avoid any confusion that might be expected. Brooke took a long shower. Grant inquired about her mental state. Not surprisingly, he was waiting for her when she came out in a robe. It must be difficult. Have you cleaned up enough? He asked. She smiled. No, but the water ran out. Yes, I guessed. What can I do for you? Well, maybe we can order pizza. I'm starving. Grant did it. Brooke looked at Grant over her pizza. I was thinking about you. I'm not so sure you're innocent. Where have you been today? On a bike ride with Evan. I told the cops. He might lie for you. Yeah, but he doesn't have to lie. I admit that I have some anger issues at times, but I didn't shoot that idiot. He was a jerk. You were right about that. Are you going to divorce me? Maybe. I mean, you threw it in my face, Brooke. After so many years, you needed some rich boy. I agree that he was good-looking. Was he good? Honestly, Grant, he wasn't. He didn't really live up to his looks. Yeah? It's true you have some kind of woman. Skylar. I was told that she is younger and more attractive. Yes, she is quite attractive and athletic. She played soccer in college. And she just picked you up right away? I bet you were intimate before I had Preston. No, maybe around the same time. First we went dancing. Why are you interested? I probably won't have a job. You will leave me. I know I have to live, and we have a marriage contract. I won't let you starve, and maybe you'll have a job. Vivian probably isn't too happy with you. Grant's phone rang. It was Skylar. He walked into the living room. Brooke followed him at some distance. She heard their declarations of love. If she had been wearing shoes, she would have kicked herself. As Grant tried to persuade Skylar not to come, Brooke entered the room. Let her come, Grant. I think it's time for us to meet. 30 minutes later the doorbell rang and Grant let Skylar in. Brooke was already dressed. She looked tired but still attractive. The two women looked at each other for what must have been a full minute. Then Skylar said, I regret this. You must be very shocked. Thank you. This is true. It's also confusing. You took my husband. You left him. It is not my fault. They were separated by about 10 feet. Grant positioned himself to intervene if necessary. Brooke was shaking. She started sobbing again. Skylar stepped toward her and hugged her. Brooke cried on Skylar's shoulder. Grant was amazed. Skylar sat Brooke down on the couch, maintaining contact. There was room for Grant too, and he sat down next to Brooke and hugged her too. Brooke sobbed, gasping for air. She sobbed, such a fool. Sorry. Such a fool. Brooke's crying subsided. She stood up a little and asked Grant, Do you think the hot water is ready? Maybe, he replied. She got up to take another shower. After she emptied the tank again, Grant gave her a pill and she fell asleep on their bed. Grant and Skylar went to the guest bedroom. They didn't want to leave Brooke alone in the house. They watched the news at 10. Preston's death was widely reported. As it turned out, Preston had many affairs with married women who mostly worked for him in one way or another. So Grant was far from the only suspect. Later on CNN, it turned out that some people also had business reasons for eliminating Preston. Finally, there were suggestions on the internet that Preston's wife could be involved in this. Grant turned off all media after 11. He and Skylar went to bed. Neither of them really wanted intimacy at first, but later that changed. Grant woke up early and checked on Brooke. She slept until 9, then took a shower. At 10, all three were sitting at breakfast eating pancakes that Skylar had whipped up. Music started playing on Skylar's phone. She answered, and it was the police to arrange an interview. Skylar asked Brooke and Grant, Should I ask them to come here? Brooke nodded. We can get the latest news. At 11, Detectives Harvey and Blaine came and took Skylar to a private room to take a statement. This took about 25 minutes. Then they all met in the living room. Brooke asked, Any news about who did this? Blaine said, Not yet. Many people had a motive, including you, Mr. Holloway. We've already discussed this. Grant frowned. Yes. Well, thank you all for your cooperation. They left. Lauren called and said the police were coming to take a statement. They were polite but persistent and scrupulous. Grant told her he would see Evan at work. All three were somewhat confused, not knowing what to do. Should I leave? Asked Skylar. Brooke said, No. I understand Grant might want you to stay. Grant nodded. They were all sitting on the back patio drinking coffee. Brooke's composure returned, but she seemed sad. Grant and Skylar seemed to be expecting more problems. Brooke held her temples. I keep seeing him dead. He still didn't move. I wonder if I'll always see this. Skylar seemed to want to console her. In my course on the psychology of grief, it was said that images are the most persistent thing, but over time they fade and are erased. I really hope so. Brooke's voice broke. Do you have news from work? Grant asked. No. I work directly for Preston. I actually acted as a sort of gatekeeper for the items sent to him. I let him see some things but took care of other things myself. Whoever takes this place will need someone like me. Who will it be? Asked Skylar. My only guess is Vivian. I know it was in his will because I signed it as a witness. She gets everything except some things for his mom. Okay. Do you want to work there? Yes. Like I said, I need to support myself. Huh. Grant looked at Skylar. Well, until you get back on your feet. Did you two sleep in the house last night? It was clear that this bothered Brooke. Skylar nodded. In the guest room. I hope this continues for some time, until I get back on my feet. There was a double meaning in Brooke's words, and neither Grant nor Skylar missed it. Grant didn't mind. Everything will work out on its own, and the girls will be back briefly next week. Skylar, they told me that you went to their game, Brooke remembered. Yes, it was exciting. I missed it. Brooke sobbed again. I feel like such a fool. He had a whole string of women. He manipulated us all. Well, he was handsome. You made a big mistake. Skylar tried to calm her down a little. Grant said, I think you've been unhappy for a while. Here at home, not at work. Brooke thought and said, This is true. I don't know what causes this. Maybe something like the grass is greener. She paused, then added, Then a big hole opened up and swallowed up my life. She stood up and ran inside. After a while, the clink of pots and pans was heard. Brooke baked a chocolate cake that was ready by noon. Eventually Skylar and Grant came into the kitchen and began to talk incoherently about something. They ate sandwiches while the cake cooled enough to frost it. So the day continued. Skylar made burgers for dinner and Brooke made salad. The three of them did something but hardly talked about the future. Brooke went to bed at 9. Twice she woke up from nightmares, once screaming. Grant came in and calmed her down. The next morning, Tuesday, Skylar had to go to work. Grant also wanted to go to the office, but he was worried about Brooke. While he was thinking, Brooke's phone rang. It was Vivian. Brooke put her phone on speaker. Will you come to work today? I have a job. Yes, I understand that the situation is not easy, but something has to be done and you can't be replaced right away. So despite your foolishness about Preston, I need your work, Vivian said. Brooke looked at Grant. He nodded. I can be there in an hour. Fine. Come to the house. Walk around back so you don't get caught, Vivian instructed. Brooke met Vivian in the office on the second floor. Vivian extended her hand for a handshake and Brooke accepted it. Vivian began, I'm curious, before we get down to business, why Preston was able to get his hands on you. I saw your husband. Did he disappoint you? Oh no, but Preston looked so good. Yes, but that was not the case? Not that good, actually. I have already begun to understand this. Not bad, but no more. Best case scenario, he had a tendency to fade. Perhaps you and he have not reached that stage yet. Maybe. Well, let's get started. The two of them worked all day, bringing Vivian up to date. They also considered how to handle Preston's affairs, but the body had not yet been returned. At 6 in the evening, Vivian looked up from her work and asked, Can you stay for dinner? We still have a lot to do. Certainly. I have Grant and his girlfriend at home, Brooke said. That's what I heard. She's pretty, Vivian commented. Yes, and young. The first night I left, they really connected. Looks like it, Vivian said. Well, if you need some relief, I can lend you one of my companions. They know how to satisfy a woman. Brooke blushed. Vivian, thank you, but I'm not ready yet. Just let me know. Now that we women are running the company, maybe the guys will have to make room. Is there anything you need? Well, if it comes to that, a companion will do. I don't want to destroy any family. You're too sweet, Brooke, Vivian said. They ate and Brooke went home around 9:30. Vivian gave her a significant raise. Grant and Skylar were interested to see how Brooke was doing at work given the complexity of the situation. Brooke described her day and the work she had to do, and she told them about her promotion. So I won't be a burden. Looks like I can support myself, Brooke said. The situation sounded pretty bleak. Grant said, Brooke interrupted. Vivian offered me a companion to use if I needed it. I refused for now. Skylar gasped. Really? How do they look? Grant was a little annoyed by this but said nothing. I don't know. I didn't even know Vivian had them. For the next 6 weeks, Brooke worked for Vivian 6 days a week, either in the office or at her home. The work was moving forward. Grant started divorce proceedings about 2 weeks later. This came as no surprise to Brooke or the twins. Vivian hired Brooke's lawyer, but the details were easy to work out. The parties agreed and signed a few weeks later. The twins stayed in the house with Grant and Skylar. Brooke didn't mind that much. She gradually moved toward peaceful coexistence with her daughters. They often spent their days off with her. Grant and Skylar returned to the main house. Skylar gave up her apartment. Essentially, she took on the role of mother to the girls. The situation became more and more comfortable. One night, Skylar and Grant, having spent time together, snuggled up to each other. "Skylar, do you want to get married?" Skylar tensed. She looked at him. "Yes." They kissed. Skylar said, "I want children too." She looked at Grant with some trepidation. He hugged Skylar. Back into diaper changing. Okay." They kissed again. They got married 6 months later. 2 months later, Skylar became pregnant. Meanwhile, the police investigation into the sensational death of a millionaire had reached a dead end. Gradually, the crime disappeared from public view. From time to time, some journalists raised this topic and it faded again. Authorities spent a lot of time checking the alibis of everyone they thought had a motive, including several husbands. They got nowhere. Some had no alibis or weak ones, but the police did not have results from an examination of prints on the rifle, and indeed no concrete evidence, and there were no witnesses despite numerous public appeals to people who may have been on a side trail near the scene. The police checked Vivian. She was with 2 young men several miles from the scene. They checked to see if she had ordered the hit, even though the shooting did not appear to be professionally executed. Nothing was found, perhaps because there was nothing to look for. Their attention to Grant quickly faded. Evan had a very convincing alibi, traveling salesman. In the end, the matter went into dormant mode, reminding itself slightly from time to time. Soon Brooke became absolutely indispensable to Vivian and the company. She was smart, passionate, and knew more about operations than anyone else, with the possible exception of the late Preston. One Saturday afternoon, Vivian and Brooke were getting ready to go out. Brooke had a room in this house. She went upstairs to take a shower. Until now, she had never gone to the pool. Vivian had no problems with the pool. It bothered her that Brooke had a problem with it. So that Saturday, Vivian found Brooke drying herself with a towel after her shower. She tossed Brooke a robe. "Come with me." Brooke was confused, but Vivian was the boss. She followed her. Vivian walked to the door that led outside to the pool. Brooke stopped. Vivian said firmly, "I have a treat for you, but you have to go outside to get it." Brooke hesitated, but then she thought maybe it was time. She stepped outside. There were 2 sun loungers by the pool. Vivian walked past them. Brooke followed her. There were 2 young men there. Both were attractive. One was black, the other was white but well-tanned. Brooke was stunned. Vivian said, "You haven't been with anyone since what happened. This is Jackson and this is Trent. You have a choice, but you must choose one." Brooke stood there looking at the men. She felt a stirring of interest. She opened her robe and let it fall. Slowly she walked toward Jackson, looking at him. "Hello, Jackson. My name is Brooke." Jackson smiled. "Nice to meet you, Brooke." What followed doesn't need detailing. Vivian and Trent watched. When it was over, Vivian and Trent gave them a round of applause. And that's how Brooke's fear of the pool was overcome. Brooke's life had changed dramatically, but not in a bad way. She had her choice of companions and she had a job that she loved. She spent Sundays with her daughters and sometimes with Grant and Skylar. When Skylar gave birth to little Bria, Brooke was thrilled but a little jealous. Grant and Skylar were very happy too. One day when the women were alone, Skylar asked Brooke about her personal life, and Brooke told her openly. Skylar's intimate life with Grant was exciting. This had subsided a bit since the baby was born. Now Skylar was back into the rhythm. From time to time, Skylar and Brooke would have these conversations. This was always enough. Brooke thought of it as a family service that she was happy to provide. some compensation to Grant for her mistake. Soon baby Nikki appeared. As they say, all's well that ends well. One evening after all the children had gone to bed, Lauren found herself walking around the backyard with Grant. She stopped at the guest house and turned to him. "Skylar and I like each other. I'm pleased." Grant smiled. "You know, in your time you could have had me, but you chose Evan. Do you know why?" Lauren replied, "I could never understand you. You have inner anger, maybe from your parents. You're hiding it, but it's always been there. And I still love you." "Maybe so. Maybe I rarely think about it," Grant admitted. "I think sometimes. And yet you have created a good life for yourself and your loved ones, and for Evan and me too." "But Grant, I saw Evan handing you your phone after your bike ride. I saw it. I didn't immediately realize what this meant. You took a hell of a risk, and so did Evan. One damn chance." Grant was silent for a moment, looking at Lauren. "Do you think I should get some counseling?" Lauren smiled. "Do not do that. It's you. So it was and will be. And remember, Evan and I still love you." Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.